Well, welcome to the program. I'm Amarachi Ubani in Lagos. U.S. Presidents Joe Biden and the First Lady Jill Biden have arrived in Britain ahead of the G7 summit holding this weekend. First on his agenda today was meeting the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and his wife Carrie. The couples enjoyed the sea view from the promenade Kirby's Bay, a seaside resort where G7 leaders will hold their meeting. This is Biden's first overseas trip as president, and he's expected to bring a grave warning to his first meeting with Boris Johnson and prevent a row with the European Union for imperiling the delicate peace in Northern Ireland.
Your first big overseas trip since you've been...
It is. It's a great country, many.
Well, it's a great pleasure, Mr. President, to welcome you to Cornwall.
It's a great pleasure to be here.
Fantastic to see you. You know, what I think is your first big overseas trip since you've been...
It is. It's a great country many times, but this is the first time as President of the United States.
Well, everybody's absolutely thrilled to see you.
We're thrilled to meet you. Thrilled to meet your wife.
Yes, and they've gone off to do something else.
They did. I told the Prime Minister we have something in common. We both married way above our station.
Okay. I'm not going to dissent from that one. Friends. I'm not going to disagree with the President on that, or indeed on anything else. I think it's highly likely. Are we going to have a? We could just continue. Generally, I think we're so generally agreed, Joe. We could probably.
Speaking of the European Union Commission, President Ursula von der Leyen told a news conference in Brussels today that the protocol governing the Northern Ireland trade arrangements is one and only solution to avoiding a hard border on the island of Ireland. She also called for unfettered investigation into the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic, first identified in central China, amid criticism of an initial World Health Organization probe.
We agreed with the United Kingdom that the protocol was the only solution ensuring the absence of a hard border of Northern Ireland. We've been really debating that since years, and we found the one and only solution. Now, we have a treaty on that, the withdrawal agreement. It has been signed by both sides, Pacta sunt servanda. It is important that we now implement the protocol. We have shown flexibility, we will show flexibility, but the protocol and the withdrawal agreement has to be implemented completely.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And as more leaders arrive in the UK for the G7 summit, local sea shanty group Briars Brothers are welcoming them with a rendition of the traditional Cornish song La Mona. The 11 men, aged in their mid-50s to mid-70s, specialize in the traditional seafaring song, which surged in popularity after a Scottish postman posted a performance of one on social media that went viral during the coronavirus lockdown.
Away down to La Mona, 'twas down in Albert Square. I never shall forget. Her eyes, they shone like diamonds, and the evening it was.
We are
Briars Boys,
and we sing Cornish traditionals and sea shanties. When we first got together, I sort of pitched it to the guys. I said, look, I know a few songs myself. They are some Cornish traditional ones, but also sea shanties. They come from my dark days of when singing in the back of a pub after a few beers. But Cornwall has a tradition of these sort of songs. The miners and the acoustics down in the mine helped for choir singing, and that's where the traditional Cornish songs came from. And then we are a peninsula county, so we're surrounded by the sea. So mariners, fishermen, and all that. So it is a natural link for us to sing both those two genres.
Leaders will be meeting in Cornwall for the G7 summit. Today, incidentally, would have been the 100th birthday of the Duke of Edinburgh, the Queen's husband. As we know, the Duke died in April this year, but memories of his charitable works remain evergreen, one of them being the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award Scheme. Prince Philip's son, Prince Edward, the Duke of Wessex, has been speaking with Channel Television's London correspondent Julian Olaika about the importance of retaining his father's legacy of championing the potential Duke of Edinburgh's International Award Scheme. Today, on the anniversary of the Duke's birthday, the Founders 100th initiative is being launched with an ambition of raising £25 million to sustain Prince Philip's vision. The award is calling on educators, parents, community business leaders, and ultimately young people from around the world to discover the potential impact of non-formal education.
Your Royal Highness, it is a huge honour and a privilege to be speaking with you today to mark a very special occasion which should have been the 100th birthday of your father, His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. Through the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award, a new campaign is being launched to celebrate your father's legacy. What inspired the Founders 100 initiative, sir, and what are the team aiming to achieve over the next 3 years?
Well, I think that the fact that it was going to be his centenary this year, I think was really the main focus. And for the award that bears his title, I think we all realise that it was an important milestone to recognise and remember. And it was so we've been sort of thinking about this for a while, but we always knew that there was, you know, we were going to have to be very flexible in our approach. But it was but I think, you know, that given that the extraordinary outpouring of memories and of just recognition of the impact of the award in so many different countries, has sort of, I think, sort of said that, you know, that we were going down the right route. That there are plenty of people that have been involved in the award, and it's had a really positive impact, and we'd like to be able to mark his centenary, but also celebrate the impact of the award around the world.
Over 30,000 young Nigerians have greatly benefited from the Duke of Edinburgh International Award Scheme, known locally as the International Award for Young People Nigeria. You were fortunate enough to visit Nigeria before the global lockdown. Sir, can you please recall your experience, and were you impressed at the commitment and drive of these young participants?
I was indeed, yes. It was a very sort of happy perchance that we were able to do that. And you're right. It was one of the last trips I think I made before lockdown. So it was it was a wonderful opportunity to meet lots of young people in lots of different places, and also to try to. It was. What was really encouraging was not just the young people involved and the adults, but there was a real genuine interest from lots of sectors of society community who were really interested by what the award and what non-formal education could really do in Nigeria for so many more young people, and that you know, that there was a real that it could be positively advantageous for lots of young people, and so we had a very we had a very a good hearing, at least when we were out there, and had some very good conversations. And I'm guessing that hopefully, you know, what was started then has probably paused a little bit, but hopefully we'll be able to pick this up as the recovery comes through, and hopefully the award can play its part in terms of the recovery in Nigeria.
Absolutely. The Duke of Edinburgh's passing provoked a huge sense of mourning across the world, including, of course, in Africa. How will the Duke of Edinburgh Award retain His Royal Highness's legacy and evolve with the changing dynamics of the world post-pandemic?
That's a very good question. I mean, luckily that the way that my father sort of set it up, and the vision and the values and the ethos he instilled in the award from the beginning is very much as relevant today as it was in the past. And it was very much one, that it should be open to all. That's above all the most important thing. So there's no discrimination in who can take part. And you know, it's fantastic seeing the diversity of the young people who do get involved, and where they get involved, their circumstances, their backgrounds, and so that's the. Funny enough, it's the biggest challenge for anybody running the award is that there should be no barriers there. And one of the things we really want to do through this campaign is to make sure that that any barriers to access and particularly affordability are broken down or removed if we possibly can, because I think that's really important to sustaining his vision for what it was. But the other part of it is really about, I mean, he was a wonderful, I mean, he he really enjoyed inspiring both young people and adults, and the award was a framework for them to be able to fulfill their goals and their dreams. And it's that is the clever trick about it. It's the empowering bit. It's about the fact that young people get to set their own goals and choose what it is they want to do, and the adults are just there guiding and shaping, but ultimately allowing young people to take responsibility for their own actions and to take it forward. And I think there's some really, really important life lessons in there, and I think that's why you get such a fantastic range of young people, both getting what they get out of it, but also that transformation for lots of young people and where it takes them in the future. So in that sense, I can't see us necessarily, we don't need to change. That's the brilliant thing. We don't need to change anything. It works because young people are reinventing the award because it's their goals. It's not ours. It's what they want to try to do. And our job is to try to help them do it.
Yes. So how can Nigerians get behind the Founders 100 initiative, both as fundraisers and recipients?
Well, certainly, I mean, as well, in terms of fundraising, what we're hoping to do is to launch a Challenge 100. So this is for anybody who wants to have a go, do something with the theme of 100 in it, and hopefully to generate some income from that, whether through sponsorship or however, and all of that will go towards the Founders Fund, which would be amazing if you get lots of. Either both. I mean, this could be anybody. This could be people that are doing the award now. This could be people who've done the award, the volunteers. It might be people who wish they rather had done the award. This is their chance to do something, and to be able to get involved. And hopefully that will just help and everything else that we're trying to do with Founders 100, just to raise that profile, and particularly really trying to try to encourage more. In a sense, community leaders, business leaders, political leaders, to understand the values, the positive values of non-formal education, what happens outside the classroom. Because if we can get that recognised, if you can get the understanding of how we actually develop those skills, which are so vital in terms of developing young people, both as employees, but also as entrepreneurs, people that are willing to take risks and do things, then hopefully parents and teachers and youth workers and others will realise that this is something that is positive. It's not a distraction. Actually, can really genuinely help the young people that they're working with and they look after. And we all know that if those young people just given that little opportunity, they will seize that and you will watch their potential grow and that potential for what is limitless, is infinite, and that's what we really want to try to do, is more young people to discover that infinite potential they have to do amazing things.
Sir, thank you very much for your time. Well,
thank you very much indeed for your interest, Juliana, and I hope very much that as a result of the Founders 100, many more young Nigerians will be able to take part in the award. That would be the most fantastic memorial and legacy to my father.
Indeed, it will be. Stay with us on The World Today. We still have more stories coming up, including this one. Imagine waking up to a thick blanket of snow, marking the start of winter in much of eastern Australia. Stay with us. Welcome back. The UK's Health Secretary Matt Hancock has rejected allegations by a former aide of Prime Minister Boris Johnson saying that there was never a national shortage of protective equipment and the government followed clinical guidance on care homes. Mr. Johnson's former aide Dominic Cummings last month said Mr. Hancock had repeatedly lied in government meetings on COVID-19 and called for him to be sacked. Here's a global update.
In January, I was driving.
Mr. Matt Hancock defended his role in the handling of the pandemic relating to testing, lockdown, and following scientific advice. Giving evidence to a parliamentary committee, Hancock said community testing was reduced early in the pandemic over concerns about false negatives and a lack of available tests.
You have to target it at the people for whom it might be life-saving.
India has reported a record high of 6,148 COVID-19 deaths during the past 24 hours, taking the total death toll in the country to 359,676, according to the Federal Health Ministry. Meanwhile, 94,052 new cases were recorded in the period, the third consecutive day when less than 100,000 cases were reported in a single day. The total caseload stands at 29,183,121. Algeria has set up mobile COVID-19 vaccination centers in several districts around the capital as part of a national campaign to speed up its vaccination drive. Citizens flocked to walk-in vaccination tents to receive their first or second dose, with one location in the Gitani Square neighborhood attracting 200 people on the first day of the campaign. Finally, two Australian states are on COVID-19 alert after an infected woman and her husband travelled from Victoria, the epicenter of the country's latest outbreak, through states of New South Wales and into Queensland, visiting dozens of sites en route. Authorities in New South Wales and Queensland are rushing to trace close contacts and locate virus hotspots. The couple may face criminal charges for breaching COVID-19 border restrictions. Thousands of striking workers today gathered outside Greece's parliament over a controversial labour bill that has been causing months of protests. The demonstrations, headed by Greece's largest public and private trade unions, are part of a 24-hour strike against the legislation, which is currently being debated in parliament and expected to pass next week. Police say more than 18,000 people participated in the protests today. The government says new measures would modernize antiquated laws dating back decades to a pre-internet time when most workers clocked into their offices and factories at the same set hours. A digital work card to monitor employees' working hours in real time will be introduced. The changes would offer workers more flexibility to decide their own schedules, give them the right to disconnect outside office hours, and help tackle unpaid overtime and undeclared work, which have fueled a large untaxed grey economy. We're in Canada now, where thousands of Canadians attended a vigil in London City of Ontario to mourn the Muslim family killed in what police said was a premeditated hate crime on June 6th. The gathering outside the London Muslim Mosque included Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Muslim communities and residents. The mourners, some holding placards, called for actions from the Canadian government to stop hate crimes against Muslims. On Sunday, 4 members of a Muslim family were killed as they were on an evening walk near their home in London, Ontario, when police said a man rammed them with a pickup truck, targeting them because of their religion. Another 9-year-old boy of the family was seriously injured in the attack.
I like to think I feel safe, but then with something like this, you are.
We have had a history of intolerance and discrimination in Canada, and for too long we've thought that many people have said, well, it's not really a problem, but it has been a problem and it has to change, and I think that's what we're seeing today.
In the Middle East, funeral marches have been held today in the occupied West Bank's Jenin and Nablus for 2 Palestinian security men killed in clashes with Israeli security forces. Earlier on, Israeli special forces killed an Islamic Jihad militant and 2 Palestinian security men in an exchange of fire during a raid in the West Bank. The special forces had entered the Palestinian city of Jenin to detain gunmen suspected of having recently attacked Israeli troops. The 2 Palestinian officers may have been killed in a possible case of misunderstanding. Palestinian authorities, security personnel, did clash with Israeli counterparts who usually keep clear of Israeli raids in the West Bank. 2 of the service officers returned fire and were killed. Israeli security forces said that after initial exchange of fire with the militants, Palestinian security officers summoned from a nearby compound by the commotion shot at the Israelis. Large-scale drills of Russia's Pacific Fleet began in the central part of the Pacific Ocean, according to the Ministry of Defense. Our ministry says 20 warships, submarines and support vessels are taking part in the exercises, in particular the missile cruiser Varyage, the large anti-submarine ship Admiral Panteleev, the frigate Marshal Shopchinov, as well as other military and support vessels. In addition, 20 aircrafts are involved in the exercise, including the Tu-142MZ long-range anti-submarine aircraft and MiG-31BM high-altitude fighter interceptors. Rescue work began today after a Mumbai residential building collapsed on top of another building, killing at least 11 people, including 8 children. Officials say the incident occurred late on Wednesday, close to midnight in fact, in a northern suburb of Mumbai, adding that more people could be trapped inside the rubble. 8 people were injured and have been moved to nearby hospitals. A video released showed rescue workers pulling out debris in a narrow lane as relatives and onlookers milled about. Incidents of building collapses become more common in India's financial capital of Mumbai during the monsoon. Wednesday was the first day of heavy rains in the city.
इसकी आवाज से ही मालूम पड़ गया था जो घर के अंदर थे वो डर से बाहर आके.
And as we end the program, winter has officially arrived for much of eastern Australia, with an icy blast bringing widespread snowfall and sending temperatures plummeting. In the state of New South Wales, the mercury is expected to dip more than 10 degrees below average for this time of the year in some places and come close to breaking minimum temperature records for the month of June. Significant snowfall is expected across the state, including the northern tablelands for the first time in almost 6 years. Snow has already begun to fall in regional NSW, including in Orange, the state's central west, and Oberon in the central tablelands. Up to half a meter is expected to blanket the state's alpine regions. Strong winds, heavy rain forecast for the south coast later this week will add to the chill factor. Snow is also likely in the Sunshine State, with temperatures in Queensland dropping up to 10 degrees below seasonal averages as well. Sounds freezing. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani.